Hey everyone, this is Chris, and you're listening to One Cross Radio. And today we are joined by nobody. It's just me. I am sitting on the floor with Luna the Beautiful. She is looking at me like, Papa, why aren't you loving me? You could be throwing the ball. Why are you holding something? She is just so precious. Yeah, I could end up, honestly, if I don't stop now, just making an entire podcast about how wonderful and adorable and beautiful it is. So I'm going to force myself to move on. And so today, this is not the episode I actually had planned. Originally, I was planning on posting a watch-along I recorded. So that'll probably be the next or second to next episode. I was also debating doing like a quick thoughts kind of one, but more so on several movies or movie rumors and opinions and all that. But this one, I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. I felt the need. I'm like, nope, I gotta record it. So this episode is directly inspired by, and I guess in a way, thanks to, our friends over at Geek Devotions. The latest, I believe, episode of their podcast, Comm Talk 2.0, was an episode, the second part of an episode they recorded last year, looking at and ranking the Alien franchise. Now, in the Unmade series, an episode on Alien is coming. But in the back of my head always, I've been like, I might need to do a separate Alien Unmade episode for Alien 3. Because the thing is, like, you could be like, Chris, what are you talking about? Alien 3 got made. It is debatably terrible. I have some friends who are like, nope, the movie's absolutely bad. There's little to no good about it. I happen to disagree with them, but I can understand. For me, there is still some good in the end result of Alien 3, but honestly, once you learn, even when you scratch the surface of the behind-the-scenes nightmare that was the pre-production and production of Alien 3, you're just kind of like, oh, snap. A lot starts to make... It starts to make a lot more sense why it was the way that it was. And more than... more than any other of the Unmade episodes, today I will be relying on various notes, and by notes I mean wiki entries, because there's a lot of ground to cover with this. Alien 3 arguably didn't need to be made. Heck, you arguably didn't need a sequel to Alien to begin with, but Aliens was so successful and so good, and so profitable that naturally they're like, nah, we're gonna make a sequel. We're printing money, basically, and that. You can't say that's the case with Alien 3. Almost from the get-go, it had an issue figuring out what it was going to be. There were numerous drafts for Alien 3. Particularly known ones are Eric Red's version of Alien 3, and that was going to be titled just Alien, like Roman numeral 3. This was well before they decided to add the mini 3, like cubed. There was a David Tohi. I'm probably mispronouncing his last name, but he did another pitch, another script. Well-known one that got a decent amount of conversation on the quadrilogy DVD sets, and then later Blu-ray set was Vincent Ward's, and it was going to involve a wooden planet, and a lot of the concepts from that one did get put into the eventual Alien 3. But the one that seems almost most known, just because it's been or is currently being I'm not 100% sure, adapted into a novelization, adapted into a comic through Dark Horse, when they had the rights to Alien, and through an audio drama through Audible, is sorry, I'm just trying to find the dude's name, is William Gibson's script for Alien 3. That seems to be the one that gets promoted the most as the unofficial or the unproduced screenplay. Like, that's the one that it seems to be the most gone to, so it's got the most notoriety. And oh man, I really recommend checking out the if you can, the box sets of the quadrilogy, 'cause you can even look at the making of featurette of this, which was called what was it called? Wreckage and so originally it was called Wreckage and Rage, which is a censorship of the original title, which was, I believe, Wreckage and Rape. And yeah, this you could almost argue that this that making of featurette is the problems of it, like a microcosm, or just the problems of Alien 3 under a microscope, because it was the only one of the set that was of the making of documentaries that had studio interference and was censored, because eventual director and first-time director David Fincher, who's well known and well respected in the industry now, had the worst time with this movie. It's something he's still to this day hesitant to talk about. He is the only director who didn't come back to the quadrilogy set to do like a director's cut, because he's like, look, the version of the movie I would have made is not in any of this because of all the interference y'all threw my way. So I think it might be called the assembly cut. I can't remember. Where it includes some needed deleted footage and all that. But still, even in the documentary on the original quadrilogy DVD set, they lifted chunks that were critical of the studio, critical of Fox and their involvement, critical of the producers and all the heavy-handedness and all that. And there was low-grade fan outrage. Like, people were upset about that. So eventually, on the Blu-ray release of the quadrilogy sets, they did the full documentary and they restored the original title. But in a way, enough about that documentary. It's just fascinating, because it shows the problems. As you can tell by this, and it's brought up in the documentary, there were many versions of Alien 3 that did not get made. So let's kind of start with the original, not the original, but we'll go with the well-known ones. I'll try not to just be reading the Wikipedia articles, but there is there's some needed information. So, okay, William Gibson's Alien 3, it was a draft from 1987. He was the first of 10 different writers to tackle Alien 3, and his first draft of the screenplay is most well known. And it's widely available on the internet. It bears no resemblance to the Alien 3 that was ultimately made, and instead of focusing on Ripley, it actually focused and revolved around Hicks and Bishop. I believe Ripley and Newt was awoken and sent away. There was an issue with Ripley's cryo chamber, so she was okay, but she was, I believe, in a coma. Gibson later produced a second draft, and it ultimately altered the overall screenplay fairly drastically. The first draft was an action extravaganza in the vein of its immediate predecessor, Aliens. The second draft radically scales back the number of xenomorph antagonists to only 3, and it goes for a claustrophobic horror vibe of the original Alien. Which I'll say, like, for all its faults, I think Alien 3 did try to recreate that that claustrophobic horror dynamic that the original had, just not as effectively, and going from numerous xenomorphs overwhelming to down to 1. Also, like in the original draft, they were going to be battling numerous genetically altered xenomorphs on board an enormous space station named Anchor Point. And I'll see if I can attach the transcript for Gibson's first draft. So I'm just going to try to sum up the plot. Bear with me. The story begins with the Sulaco on its return journey from LV-426, the planet in where the derelict is, where we first met the alien in Alien, but where Aliens takes place. But due to navigational error, the ship drifts into an area of space controlled by the Union of Progressive Peoples. So basically, this was going to be a socialist nation based on the Soviet Union and the Cold War, which was seeping into everything in the 80s. Star Trek with the Klingons was an analogy of the Cold War and the arms race. Bond dealt extensively with it. Rocky ended it in Rocky IV. The Cold War was a go-to one. So yeah, they're going up against UPP forces as they board the Sulaco. But then the UPP forces are attacked by a facehugger that has apparently grown from xenomorph genetic material that was deposited within Bishop. Because at the end of Aliens, the Queen ripped Bishop in half. So the idea is that the Queen snuck a facehugger in there. Before leaving, the victim and the facehugger are killed, but the remaining commandos flush them both into space. And then before leaving the Sulaco, they recover Bishop's torso. Sometime later, the Sulaco docks at Anchor Point, where it's met by a team of colonial Marines again, and scientists, including a science technician named Tully. They board the ship and are attacked by 2 drones in the hypersleep bay. The creatures kill 2 of the Marines before they are incinerated with a flamethrower, and in the process, Ripley's cryotube is badly damaged by the flame. She survives, but she's plunged into a coma. Newt and Hicks survive unscathed, which is a drastic difference, due to highly controversial elements from other versions of the script and the eventual theatrical cut of Alien 3. So yeah, sorry. I'm just gonna skip down because I'm reading so many things and there's so many drafts to get through. So some of the stuff is Gibson's script is notably the only one written for Alien 3 that attempts to believably explain how there can be xenomorphs aboard the Sulaco following aliens. An egg develops from xenomorph genetic materials inside Bishop's remains, presumably deposited when he was ripped in two by the Queen. From this egg, a facehugger then emerges and attacks a member of the UPP team that boards the vessel. However, his body is immediately jettisoned into space, and no explanation is given for the two drones that later attacked the boarding party from Anchor Point. Even if more facehuggers somehow developed on board the Sulaco, there were no hosts from which the adult creatures were born, as Ripley, Newt, and Hicks were discovered intact. So, it seems like the script was kind of going for a little bit of a concept that's been behind the scenes in Aliens and used in that expanded universe called egg morphing, where a host is and minerals and stuff from within them literally morphs into an egg that contains a facebuster. Other notable... Oh, Luna. Sorry, Luna wants to play. She's upset that I'm sitting here and not focused on her. Other noticeable aspects of the script is it explicitly states that the xenomorph began as an artificially engineered creature. So one of the characters mentions that it's as though at some point their gene structure had been designed for the ease of manipulation, going on to theorize that they were created by an unknown extraterrestrial race used as a biological weapon. This is something that's popular amongst Alien fans and Ridley Scott. In the old Dark Horse comics, the xenomorphs have a homeworld. But heck, even in a conversation with Christian the other day on Skype, we were talking about it, as we were kind of talking about ALIEN³, and the xenomorphs take on characteristics of a host. So that's why in the original Alien and Aliens, the aliens are bipedal, or not like they go on two legs and all that, because their hosts are human. Or in the terrible AVP movies, but the much better AVP comics and games, you can get things like the Pred Alien, taking on the dreadlocks and some of the strengths and the mandibles and all that. In Alien 3, you get the dog xenomorph, the runner, or in the assembly cut, it's a cow. So it's much more speedy. It runs on 4 legs instead of 2. And give me one quick second. I'm going to let Luna outside. Okay, and we're back. So I'll try to be quicker with this. I am sorry. There's just so much information from this, and I could easily just be like, y'all should go check out the wiki entries. But I did try to write down and memorize stuff, but it just didn't work. Anxiety's high. So again, this is another episode that's that exercise and getting out that energy. So the script also had marked Cold War overtones, mentioning the arms race and all that with the socialist group. Yeah, that part's interesting to a degree. So at the end of the script, Bishop proposed that the existence of the xenomorphs might unite the two opposing powers to this common threat. And then finally, the script is somewhat unusual in sci-fi because it paints a realistic representation of decompression in space. Such an event is often portrayed as causing people to spontaneously and violently explode, which is something we'll talk about in Eric the Red script, which isn't true. And that one of the characters in this script, as he's sucked into space while having his helmet off, he briefly is he quickly is just frozen solid. So y'all remember that clip from the Magic School Bus where Arnold's annoying cousin is being annoying, and then he just takes his helmet off while they're in space and it becomes a frozen ice cube with glasses? That's realistic. So this also was going to add some new additions to the xenomorph and how they go. So Gibson altered the nature of them, bestowing the creatures with new abilities. Most drastically, the xenomorphs in his script would now exist the ability to reproduce just via close proximity airborne contagion, like a virus. So weirdly, even though we're almost at the end of the pandemic, it'd be like, picture someone getting COVID-19 and then turning into a xenomorph. When the xenomorph contagion is inhaled in the lungs, the victim, after a variable amount of time, goes through the change, and they become a xenomorph. The transformation process would be summarized as a rapid and involuntary change in the human's skeletal and muscular makeup below the skin, concluding with the newly formed xenomorph graphically tearing the flesh husk off of its body. The xenomorphs always have graphic and violent introductions into existence. The airborne contagion concept, it was intended to introduce suspense, as the survivors would not know if anyone among them was infected until the change suddenly occurs. The concept and the process of sudden transformation, there were clear parallels to John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982. And let's see. Oh yeah, actually, in a way, this did get adapted into a later Alien movie, again, to a small degree. Alien Covenant, with the little eggs, the airborne spores that go into dude's ear, the other dude's nose, results in the neomorph, or the back burster, or the neck burster. Yeah. So let's see. There were some other stuff for the first draft. The xenomorphs were also going to reproduce through the typical means of the chest busters, although in this case, multiple chest busters would emerge from one victim, which, with the exception of certain xenomorphs doing it, like the Predalien, no, it's just one chest buster per victim. So that would have been something. Also, how they get impregnated is not even just through the facehugger in this draft. It's like a drone bites somebody's leg and they get pregnant. So with a chest burster. So I'm not a fan of that part. Of course, since it's the third sequel, Gibson was wanting the xenomorphs to be bigger, meaner, faster, so they could reproduce far more quickly, and there would be genetic modifications and cloning stuff and all that that messes with it. So there's some similarities between these and the cloned xenomorphs we get in in my opinion, even worse, Alien Resurrection. Another movie that has some good concepts, but some good concepts does not a good movie make. So then the second draft, let's as quickly as I possibly can, because you know me, I'm long-winded and I'm not the best at reading. So the second draft is it's got mostly the same plot. It features less action, though, fewer human characters, and many less xenomorphs that stalk them, instead of a bustling, heavily populated space station housing a contingent of colonial marines. Anchor Point is manned by a skeleton crew while its construction is being completed, and the personnel stationed there have access to almost no weaponry. And that's somewhat of a concept that does get eventually in Alien 3. Different setting, but small crew, no access to weapons. In the second draft, there's a It addresses a plot hole from the first draft, the presence of the 2 xenomorph drones. Give me a second. Luna now wants to be let back in. Okay, and we're back. So it tries to correct that. In the second draft, a UPP commando who is attacked by the facehugger isn't flushed into space, and his colleagues are forced to leave him aboard the ship. The drone that emerges from him just subsequently goes into hiding, which makes sense. You see that in Alien. It's all about hit and run. The thing is born violently and then goes, hides in some vents, grows, attacks, disappears. So when the team from Anchor Point board the Sulaco, they aren't attacked by the xenomorph. There's no firefight in the hypersleep bay, and instead of being destroyed by flame, Ripley's cryotube is said to have been damaged by the commando when he was attacked by the face hugger earlier. That can make sense because face huggers and that whole process is incredibly violent. when you try to think about what's going on, it's horrifically violent. So the drone gets aboard Anchorhead, and only then does it begin killing the crew. Apart from the drone, the only other xenomorphs in the story are the hybrid. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly try to find out what that is, because that's brand new information for me. And the genetically modified creature in the UPP labs. So yeah. Other notable additions and alterations in this draft, during the Anchor Point search of the Sulaco. Okay, no. I don't need to read this part, because there's a lot of stuff that they didn't cover before, and that's going to take like 10 minutes for me to try to figure out. And then words. Okay, now I'll quickly give some info about... Oh, the hybrid, right. Okay, yeah, I did learn about this. It's got similar... Okay, so the characteristics. This variant is quite different in terms of birth and design. It's not implanted like the typical chestbuster. Instead, the DNA is mixed with that of the human on a molecular level. Creating the ovomorph, the egg. When exposed to the host, it liquefies, recreates itself, and then shoots spores into the air, thus allowing the host to be infected. After gestating, there's that transformation, and then it bursts through the body. Its appearance is different due to the presence of the human DNA. It had 2 small beady eyes, a human-like nose, and a more flexible inner jaw. It should be noted that its vocalizations were not the same of the other xenomorphs. The fingers were also separated similar and looked more similar to human fingers. Instead of standard 6 with 2 pairs, it had 6 individual fingers. It also didn't need to lay eggs or cocoon hosts, instead opting to injure or maim an intended host. However, it still displayed the ability to create the residue, but a different residue. So, what's interesting with this is basically, in look, it looks a lot like what you would get from to a degree. It's like the newborn from Alien Resurrection, and the hybrid did show up in the comic based on this screenplay, and like its head is translucent, and there's like a humanoid skull in there, which is something that was in the Geiger design of the original Alien. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, let's move on, and I'll try not to take as much time. So we'll go on to Alien, Eric Red's script, of Alien 3. So during its development, it was, known as Alien World. Red was the second of the 10 writers to come aboard. Like Gibson's script, it bears no relation to the eventual third. So let's see. And it instead focused... Actually, oh my gosh. It instead focused on a character named Sam Smith battling xenomorphs aboard a space station, part of which consists of a giant glass dome containing an entire small-town USA settlement called North Star. That's interesting. But let's see. So, sorry, I forgot some of this, but this one doesn't have the best fan reception. So, a team of unarmed soldiers led by Sam Smith, not the singer, boards the Sulaco as it drifts in space. After discovering Bishop's severed legs, the team finds that 3 cryotubes in the hypersleep chamber have been smashed open. So amidst the separated human remains sit 3 xenomorph eggs. Sam finds a tattered name tag bearing the name Ripley. Suddenly, they are attacked by a xenomorph hiding in the ceiling with no weapons to defend themselves. The soldiers are massacred. Sam wakes up at home, feeling like these events are a nightmare. So, sorry again, I'm not going to read the entire plot. That's going to be boring for y'all. Just me sitting reading a wiki entry. So, yeah, it's like the decision to kill off Newt and Hicks was a very unpopular one. There are some people that supported it, but there are others that just hated it. Sorry, I'm just trying to... I lost my spot. This was also going to have a new form of human xenomorph hybrid. There's also like bug, like mosquito xenomorphs. So that's, oh my gosh. So also the human xenomorph hybrids, there were 20 of them. They form into one giant creature as well. Yeah, this is bad. So let's see. So Red's screenplay was considered brash, and it's been largely ridiculed since its release. You can find it online, and Red himself has since disowned it, calling it a piece of junk and claiming it was far removed from what he intended. And it was the result of frantic and confused studio pressure, which does make sense given this horrible pre-production period. Red also, there was a criticism towards killing Ripley, Newt, and Corporal Hicks, and there was no explanation whatsoever for where the xenomorph that killed them came from, which is fairly consistent with Alien 3 in general, because what was known in the Alien canon, like through the novels and the comics, was a queen facehugger got on board. So the queen brought this along with it, basically snuck it into friggin' Bishop, and then that's what got out. Implants the queen, and also has a queen embryo and a standard drone embryo. The drone is born faster and makes sure things are safe for the queen. Okay, let's move on. So also, sorry. Let's, I lost my spot and my train of thought entirely. Also, the script was strangely used modern terms to describe the weapons, which in Alien and Aliens, and the comics and everything, they've always been called like pulse rifles, smart guns, and sci-fi-y things of the future, but the characters use Colt 45s, N16s, Browning machine guns, and a Winchester repeater. Like, old tech. The script was also considered excessively violent, even by the standard of even by Alien standards, which it's an R-rated franchise with the exception of AVP, and you can even see it in the controversial, but I really love Covenant. It's gory. It's never been not gory. But even this, they were like, this is it's insane. People were like, this is ridiculously over the toply gory. I can't words. There was even I'm so glad this didn't happen. There was even one chief target of this thing is a scene in which 2 victims were graphically mutilated by a xenomorph while having mid-maritals. That's what I'll go with. As well as exaggerations of decompression in space, where like a guy explodes in a, quote, shower of meat, blood, intestines, teeth, and skull tissue. What? So, let's move on to the differences in the xenomorphs. As with all of the unproduced scripts, Red further alters the xenomorphs, giving them new abilities. In his script, sorry, I just lost. Oh yeah, the aliens in his script are far larger. So in this one, the Queen in Aliens and then the comics and blah 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 was stated as 15 height. 15 feet tall, and in Eric the Red's, that's the Warriors, that's the drones, like they're just that size. That he did want to bring back the egg morphing thing that was still is shown in the director's cut of Alien, which I would love to see made canon, because it doesn't replace the need for a queen, as sometimes people suggest. It's like, hey, if it's a lone drone with no queen and no access to a hive, it's going to make a hive. It's going to make something new. So, let's see. It was going with the idea of the adult xenomorphs have a very short lifespan, which I think is dumb. And yep, there was also going to be the xenomorph, like the xenomorph virus. So it's a concept that later got recontextualized for Covenant and used much better. Okay, let's try to speed this up. I appreciate y'all for I'm really hoping you're enjoying this. I'll go with that. I know I would, but I'm hoping you are. Okay, so next up is Vincent Ward's Alien-3. Now this one has a controversial sitting within the fan base, but I will say that this is probably my favorite version of it. And you can of the unmade versions, this is one of my favorites. And I'll attach a link to the full version, because I think I can also do that with everyone's, which is good, because I enjoy reading actually the unmade scripts, because it's just interesting to learn. Okay, sorry. Oh my gosh, now everything is freezing and slowing down, and I hate it. Okay, so the story begins in this one. This one actually bears I'd argue bears the most resemblance to the eventual Alien-3. A lot of the concepts from Alien-3 are there, but instead of it being a back end of the backwater prison planets, it's a wooden satellite planet, which you can get iffy on like, how does this have gravity? How does this have atmosphere? How does this sustain stuff? Where, all right, yeah, you can get nitty gritty about it, but also, like, some of the concept art from this was just absolutely gorgeous. So I'd be like, you know what? I'm willing to go with it. So this is kind of like a secluded group of monks. And what heats the place is antique glass work, antiquated glass work. So they're melting glass and shaping glass. So the movie starts off with Brother John. He tends to the wounds of another who burned his arm in an accident. Bell signals that it's time for lunch, but while the other monks head to the mess hall, Brother John instead ascends through a wooden monastery to the library, where he reads with his dog Matthias. The leader of the commune, known as the abbot, permits John to take one of the books from the library, which would normally be forbidden, and read outside. Brother John ascends to the surface, and the monastery is revealed to be a man-made space station called ALIEN, constructed mostly from wood around a metal frame. On the surface, Brother John sits beside a lake, and as he reads to Matthias, he notices a shooting star in the sky. Over the following days, more and more monks assemble to watch the comet as it approaches the space station. Eventually, the star crashes down into the lake, and it is revealed to be an escape pod. Brother John rushes out to the pod in a small boat and climbs inside. It transpires that all technology has been cast aside by the monks, and as a result, Brother John has no idea what any of this stuff is. Within the pod, he finds a shredded, blood-stained clothing of a child and the head of a doll before stumbling upon a distress message recorded by Ripley, in which she states the Sulaco has been infested by xenomorphs and Corporal Hicks and Bishop have been killed. She plans to escape with Newt in a lifeboat. After viewing the message, Brother John discovers Ripley still inside a hypersleep capsule, and he rescues her from the craft, despite protests of the other monks. And again, I know people were upset by Alien-3's decision to kill Newt and Hicks, but in some ways I kind of like it, because it does, like, one of the overall themes from Alien-3 is Ripley deals with survivor's guilt, but everybody she knows dies horrifically. Anytime she gets any semblance of hope, it's snatched away, which leads, like, really informs her eventual disdain for the xenomorphs, what they represent, her hatred for the company, which Alien is just such a wonderful representation of capitalism taken to a very unhealthy degree. It's sadly, not to get on a too political rant, but I would argue, though, sadly, that our future is less like Star Trek and more like Alien, which is not something I like, and I hope is changed. But to me, that just seems more likely. Anyways, part of the reason the monks are hesitant is Ripley's a woman. They're recluse monks. Temptation, themes of that, a lot of those themes. So, after having a nightmare about a xenomorph, Ripley awakes in the monastery. Outside her window, she sees fields of wheat, all housed beneath the surface of the planet, with the ceiling high above painted to resemble a sky, fitted with large windows to allow sunlight to filter down. She sees the escape pod lower down, having been recovered from the lake. So Ripley tries to warn the abbot about the alien. She thinks there was an alien on board. She suspects that was responsible for Newt's death, but she's rebuked, and the highly skeptical abbot holds that recounting the events on LV-426 are all an elaborate deception, as this monk believes that the Earth was destroyed decades previously, an event that led to the monks rejecting all technology. The monk then has Ripley locked up in a room and forbids any of the other brothers, but especially Brother John, from making contact with her. Later that night, the two of the monks, Brother John and another one named Brother Graham, see a chestbuster emerge from one of Brother Graham's sheep. Before it can escape, they kill the infant by burning it alive. Following the incident, Ripley is brought to a kangaroo court, where they is then subjected to a one-sided show trial by the abbot and the other senior monks, who charge her with bringing evil to her commune, to their commune. Her protestations regarding the xenomorph are again ignored or otherwise rejected as a deception, and she is declared for the responsible for the appearance of this devil that came from the sheep. She is imprisoned in the lowest levels and resigns herself to her fate. Brother John doesn't share this, and he eventually decides to head to the lower levels to seek her advice. As he leaves, several monks are killed in the lavatory. This scene would be described as almost like the old outhouse style toilets that were wide. You're crouching over them, and the xenomorph is crawling around under and yanking them down, which could be played for dark comedy. So Ripley in her cell finds another android named Anthony, because he represents technology and everything the monks are trying to get away from. So I am trying to speed this up. There is a technology room, which they try to get to, because at this point Ripley's just accepted her fate. She's just like, look, this thing's here, it's gonna kill all of us, I'm done. But eventually Brother John talks her into and convinces her to help him and save the people. They head to the technology room, which is the chamber where the station's air and gravity are produced, in the hopes of finding something that may be used as weaponry. And again, similar concepts are in the eventual Alien-3. And sorry, this is just fascinating for me, and I'm hoping it's good for you guys too. Let me know in the comments. I'm hoping this isn't my most boring Unmade episode. I'm hoping you're enjoying it. So as I move there, Brother John reveals that the order on this satellite, Arceon, started out as an anti-technology movement on Earth, which grew exponentially after a computer virus wiped out a huge portion of the data stored on the planet. People flocked to their causes, and the rejection of modern technology threatened Weyland-Yutani corporations, aka the corporation, profits. So the movement's members were banished aboard Arceon for the crime of political heresy. And as you dive deeper, you eventually find out they weren't supposed to survive, but they did. Back on the upper levels, the xenomorph is running amok, murdering people as they do. It attacks several people in a field of corn. And from, I believe, how it's been described and illustrated, think the long grass scene from The Lost World. Eventually, the field is set ablaze. However, the abbot soon arrives, and the abbot escapes. Eventually, is reunited with Ripley, the android, and Brother John in the lower levels. But upon reaching that room, they are attacked by the xenomorph. While Ridley struggles to open the door, Anthony and Brother John fight the creature off using bear traps that have been set up in the area to stop monks from venturing in. But as they succeed, Anthony is critically damaged, and then the survivors make it into technology room and seal the xenomorph outside. They discover that it contains nothing but wood and cloth windmills that circulate the air and the water, and the truth becomes apparent. It was never meant to be sustainable and was always intended as a death sentence by the company. To make matters worse, the fires started have now used up a large amount of the remaining oxygen and has also destroyed the crops that helped refresh the atmosphere. As the survivors argue about escaping, a new type of chestbuster erupts from the abbot's head, killing him. Ripley and Brother John elect to make an escape for the Sulaco escape pod and use it to flee the station. However, Anthony is forced to stay behind due to the damage he received earlier. And then as the others leave, Anthony is completely destroyed. Eventually, Ripley and Brother John reach the library just below the escape pod, but are again confronted by the xenomorph. As the two survivors fight the creature, its acid blood starts a fire that destroys the library's floor, and all three of them fall into the glassworks below. The xenomorph falls into a vat of molten glass, apparently killing it, but it emerges again and prepares to attack, whereupon Ripley opens a large dump tank and douses the creature in a torrent of water, causing its glass-coated exoskeleton to explode through thermal shock. That is hugely lifted and adapted to the climax of Alien 3, and I really like that climax as the end to the creature, because the other climaxes, which are great in and of themselves, where it's like ejecting the alien into space, also at times involve Ripley, who is a normal human being, somehow surviving the vacuum of space, because reasons. So that one, at least you're like, all right, there's no logic loopholes in this, I'm down. So Ripley and Brother John, they eventually make it to the escape pod, but as they prepare to leave, Ripley realizes she has a chestbuster inside her. She prepares to send Brother John away in the escape vehicle while she stays behind to die. However, Brother John refuses, and by beating Ripley's chest, he manages to make the chestbuster crawl out of her through her gullet into his own throat, saving her and impregnating himself. Condemned to death, Brother John leaves the escape pod and walks into the fires raging across the surface of the planet, killing himself and the infant xenomorph. After watching his sacrifice, Ripley flees the dying space station in the escape pod, with Brother John's dog by her side. So a lot of that was adapted. It was adapted into Alien 3. And on the DVD, they'll also share, like, there was another version where most of it was the same of Vincent Ward's script, but Ripley died instead, because with according to Ward, Sigourney's like, I don't want to live through another one of these, and it does kind of make sense, because even though she's always like the survivor, she would want to take down this creature that has taken everything from her, especially then with the idea of, in the eventual Alien 3, like the company being there to try to take the xenomorph back alive, because she's like, nah man, this wouldn't work. So noted trivia though is this one has received positive reception. Sigourney Weaver though expressed a negative view towards it, stating elements were there, but there was no story, and certainly no story involving Ripley. She felt he didn't really know what to do with her character, which fair enough. Fair enough. I'm not gonna argue with her. she is Ripley. All right, so the final one we are going to talk about is David Twohy's script. Alright, so somewhere in space, a mining ship is collecting asteroids to harvest their raw materials. Suddenly, the vessel's machinery shuts down and reported in response to something detected in the rock being processed. And he investigates and finds a facehugger entombed in amber in the debris. Oh my gosh, it's the mosquito from Jurassic Park. It's a facehugger. Awesome. He collects it and transmits the message to ALIEN³ before the ship resumes its harvesting operations. Cut to 3 years later. Several new inmates are being transferred to Moloch Island, a giant prison space station in orbit around Earth. The new arrivals: Styles, Grimes, Van Brunt, Domingo, and Kiryu are put straight to work in a large foundry at the center of the space station that possesses ores mined in space. So they eventually try to, say, okay, someone's getting executed. That's basically it. Styles hears that night after the thing. Styles hears mysterious screeching noises. So basically in this one, it's being used as this planet is being used by ALIEN³ through their experiments of weaponizing the xenomorph, and that goes awry. So let's see. Jumping down to this notes section. So this is where the prison planet got carried over. None of the plot or the characters from that were carried over. However, the character of Packard in this bears similarity to the character of Clemens in Alien. Other aspects of the screenplay later resurfaced in Alien Resurrection. Notably, the script features several characters being sucked piecemeal into space through small ruptures in the island hull, which is what happened to the newborn at the end of Alien Resurrection. But that was also apparently the planned fate for Lambert and Aliens, but had to be dropped at the time because of special effects limitations. The room containing glass tanks holding the dormant xenomorph prototypes, some of which were grotesquely reformed, was something they used for the clones of Ripley in Alien Resurrection. And then, unlike the preceding screenplays, which generally featured more and more xenomorphs for the protagonist to defeat, Tohi's script instead moves in the direction of the original Alien with only a very small number of creatures. Large portion of the story features no real contact with them at all, and focuses instead on escape attempts from the prisoners. And the script also just uses the name ALIEN³ for the company instead of ALIEN³ Company or ALIEN³ Corp, which were later names for it. In the original Alien, it was just ALIEN³. Of course, there were changes to the xenomorphs here. So instead of them being impregnated with chest bursters, they are engineered and grown in an artificial womb in the lab. None of the xenomorphs are ever seen attempting to recreate on their own, although a creature living below the cell block does begin building a hive inside a water tank. The aliens are being altered due to genetic experimentation, which was in William Gibson's original script and later got used in Alien Resurrection. So the creatures don't share the hive mentality of the xenomorph seen previously, and at one point, two types of aliens actually fight each other to the death on sight, which I gotta say, I would love I would love to see that. Like, one of the ideas in Alien Covenant that didn't get used was the neomorph, the white albino xenomorph thing that was running around. At the end of the movie, it was going to square off with the xenomorph that was, you could call like David's xenomorphs. Because, all right, let's get this out of the way. Sorry. All right, we're actually going to take a quick break, and just because I need a sip of water, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dallas.
And I'm Celeste, and we're from Geek Devotions.
Geek Devotions, a show brought to you by devoted geeks who are devoted to letting you know that you are loved. And we do this through a variety of ways.
Weekly Bible study on Facebook at 6:30 Central Standard Time, where we go line by line through the scriptures.
Such as weekly devotionals on YouTube using geeky pop culture items like movies, video games, and comic books.
As well as a podcast called Comm Talk by Geek Devotions, where we have book reviews, music discussions, as well as general geekery.
Pray and Plays on Twitch, where we play video games, but we are willing to stop the action to pray and talk with people who need it. If you want more information about what we do here at Geek Devotions, just look up Geek Devotions on some of your favorite social media platforms, or check out our website, geekdevotions.com.
Okay, and we're back. Sorry, I also really wanted to shout out our friends over at Geek Devotions, Dallas and Celeste, because they really inspired the bumping up of this episode. They're great people. Their podcast is great. Their ministry is great. Check them out. They are awesome people. And Geek Devotions is just fantastic. All right, so the thing I was going to get out of the way. Since Covenant, there has been a borderline argument that David in Covenant, you find out David created the xenomorphs. I'm going to argue no, because not only in the debatably out of canon novelization does it state that David was trying to recreate the xenomorphs because he studied what the engineers had done. In the direct movie, in scenes, you see like almost like a hieroglyph of the xenomorph on a wall in Prometheus in the engineers' ships. So no, David did not create the engineers. Sorry, not the engineer. Well, he especially didn't create them. He did not create the xenomorphs. Now, he recreated them, but he couldn't get them exactly like the ones the engineers created or had aboard the ship. So, moving on. Just had to get that rant out of my way. There were going to be different types of xenomorphs in this. The rogue alien. So this creature is the one living beneath the cell block. It is responsible for the deaths of the inmates in their cells, as well as Grimes, Domingo, and Kuro during an ill-fated escape attempt. This xenomorph is able to realign its armored mesoskeleton so that it may reshape itself to pass through very narrow gaps, such as between the bars of prison cells. The idea of a xenomorph that can alter its body shape to pass through small gaps was later reused in John Svate's concept for the beluga xenomorph in his original script for Prometheus titled Alien Engineers, which might be a podcast for a different time, because man, I would have preferred that movie. Also, the creature shares its name with the Rogue, which was a leading character in the comic Aliens Rogue. But aside from that, they share little similarities. There was the chameleon alien, which was only seen in the specimen storage room of the lab. This xenomorph would be able to change the color of its skin to match its environment as a form of camouflage. There was going to be the brute alien, and this creature escapes from the storage room following the shuttle crash and is later killed fighting the new breed. It is described as a stockier than normal xenomorph, has a spiked mesoskeleton. In combat, it charges like a mad rhino. And this one shares shares ideas and similarities with some aliens from the comics. There was the Siamese alien. It was only seen in the storage room in the lab. This xenomorph consists of two individuals fused together like Siamese twins. I don't know what the point of that is, but, you know, mad scientists got a mad science. There was the mutated alien, again, only seen in the lab. This xenomorph is horribly deformed, much like the other clones of Ripley, 1 through 7 in Alien Resurrection. It's implied to be because of the imperfections in the cloning process that created it. And then there was the new breed, which was the primary antagonist of the film following the death of the Rogue. This creature is able to secrete acid through its skin, an ability that it uses to pass through walls and other obstructions by melting them. It also engages with the brute alien in a fight, kills it by tearing out its spine. Holy predator, Batman. Despite its name, it bears no relation to the newborn in Alien Resurrection. Some final notes. Twohy allegedly developed an alternate draft of the script featuring Ellen Ripley as a major character, presumably in case Sigourney Weaver, who at the time seemed unlikely to return for a third movie, changed her mind. So then another note is the manner in which xenomorphs are recreated from a facehugger trapped in amber is I mentioned that. It's remarkably similar to Jurassic Park. But Jurassic Park wasn't written until years after this script was written. So I'm not going to say anybody ripped off anybody. It's just one of those lovely, remarkable coincidences that just are so fascinating. And that is the episode. That is the episode for Alien 3 Unmade. There are many other versions of Alien 3, but these are the ones that have the most information and the most accessible information. I will attach the links to the screenplays, and I will say most of this, as I was reading, this was from avpfandom.com, but this stuff, again, is legit. They have citations to it at the bottom of every pages, and it's just fascinating. For me, Alien 3 is an example of, in a way, it's a shame. Because the movie had so much potential. Even the final product had so much potential. And there's things I love in the final end. Like the final product. I love the runner. I do love the setting. Despite the issues they had in that production with that setting. I like the idea of a prison planet. I like the idea of, we've seen how we've done the whole Vietnam thing. In Aliens, I like the I like Alien 3's claustrophobic prison setting. It further isolates Ripley and informs where she is, and the faults of the company in unfettered capitalism. Like, it really does, and it really does set up her sacrifice in the eventual movie rather well. As you can see through this, they didn't know what to do with Alien 3. They really didn't. They weren't sure if Sigourney was coming back, so they were like, all right, let's come up with some ideas where they involve directly Hicks and Newt, or they toy with killing off Newt and Hicks, which they eventually did. And I know a lot of people took issue with that, and I totally understand why. Like, James Cameron really developed these lovable characters that you spent like 2 to 2.5 hours getting to know, tolerating, and then enjoying and loving, only to have them killed off screen the beginning of the next movie, which I think killing them off screen would have been better than killing them off on screen. That might have been more egregious in fans' eyes. But then it also tackled the idea of, like, not including these characters at all, which arguably would have been worse. Actually, no, it would have been worse because you needed to finish Ripley's story. But, like, I had a great conversation actually with Dallas and Celeste after their last episode, where the Alien franchise right now is really up in the air. Like, there's all these rumors and talks. Like, is it going to be is it going to be Ridley Scott coming back and finishing it off? Is he going to finish off the prequel series, or is he just going to go somewhere else? And, like, in my past Alien/Alien Predator themed episodes, I'm like, look, my personal opinion, in the future of these movies, you could do an AVP3, just have it set in the future. And as much as I love watching Sigourney Weaver play Ripley in Ripley 8, the clone, in Alien Resurrection, is one of the few good things in that movie, which, by the by, the novelization, much better. I don't think you necessarily need Ripley in an Alien movie. And that's what some of the elements from these explore. And there's elements of these where I'm like, I like this, and I like how you repurposed it in later movies better. But on the whole, with Alien 3, you can see, like, why it had so much trouble. Because these scripts got to various levels of either production or pre-production, and then they were canned, and eventually it was like, look, we got to release this thing. And it became about a release date and less about a movie. And then all the like, studio interference Fincher had. It's nuts. Like I said, my personal favorite out of these is probably the Vincent Ward one. And I think comics medium is a great way. I legit enjoy any or all of these being released through comics or like a straight to DVD cartoon or something. Yeah. I'll end it there because I know I've been rambling, and I apologize for that, but I really hope you enjoyed these. Let me know in the comments, what out of these is your favorite? Which one would you be most interested in seeing? Again, the Gibson script, the William Gibson one, at least the first draft, you can read through a Dark Horse comic, and you can listen to in audiobook format through Audible. There's an audio drama of it, so check that. You can check those out. And I'd love to see some of the other ones get those treatments. Maybe not Eric the Reds. I'm sorry, if your name's Eric and Red, you're just gonna get Eric the Redded. So let me know in the comments, what did you which one of these would be your favorite? I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Again, check out Geek Devotions, and I will try for future episodes not to be relying so much on reading stuff off the computer, because it's not my favorite way to deliver, but there was so much information for this, and again, anxiety was hitting, and that's not an excuse, but it's just like I was looking for something to do, and this helped, and I really hope you enjoyed this episode, because it's one I was wanting to do for a while. I'm looking forward to just doing Alien Unmade in general, because there's a lot of meat on that bone. And I've also been on a Bondzilla podcast kick, which has gotten me on a semi-Bond kick, but also a Star Trek kick. So I'm looking forward to doing an Unmade Star Trek episode. All that being said, I love you guys. Thank you for listening and supporting. Supporting through prayer, supporting through Patreon. Thank you to my patrons, Bex and Nathan. Notably, Nathan. Last time I accidentally called Nathan Tim. So I do apologize for that, Nathan. And we recently rejigged our Patreon tiers. They are our my joke was on Instagram because I added it with a gift from The Office. Butt liquor, our prices have never been lower. Our Patreon tier, the tiers financially have gone down, so if you do feel like you can, please head on over. You'll see some fun clip art. There are some great perks. We have also added a new tier, which is, like, I'll admit, a full-on joke tier. Although if you want to add to it, I'm not going to complain. It's called the Funko Fund, and at the end of the day, like, homies, I love Funkos. I just want more Funkos. So if you want to give me money towards them, awesome. But that one's not considered I don't actually consider that a real tier. I just want to add a fun one. But hey, if you do that one, I will happily share and review that Funko with expressionally with bells on. I don't have anything with bells to wear. But yeah, all that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know I've said that like 10 times, but I always hope you enjoy the episodes. But I hope you enjoy. I hope you're staying safe. God bless, my friends. Be good to each other, please. Please be good to each other. And let me know what out of these Unmade scripts for Alien 3 are the ones that interest you the most. And again, sorry, I know I've quasi-ended this. Man, I'm like friggin' Return of the King. Just when you think I'm ending, I'm adding more. And I love that movie. If you have any prayer requests, hit me up. We'll keep it private. It's not for. I'm not sharing this with anybody. I'm not trying to be like, oh, look at how holy I am, because that's no. Very much of which I am the worst. I've asked for prayer on here, and I'm happy to pray for people, and I believe our God is a God who answers prayers. The answers might not always be the answers we want, but eventually we realize where the answers we need, or that are better than what we want. That's a podcast all in and of itself. Hit me up for if you've got any prayer requests. Drop a line. We'll keep it quiet, but I'll be praying for you. And also, I asked on Twitter, and I'm going to ask here. One thing I kind of want to do, I've started dabbling in some other things where it's like exclusive Patreon content. So, hey, if you become a patron, you get exclusive content and bonus episodes. But one episode I do want to kind of try is almost like a mailbag Ask Anything episode. Now, I'll say within reason, because if you just send me something that's like really inappropriate, I might laugh, but I'm not going to read it or let alone record it. But if you do have any questions that you'd be interested in that episode, let me know, because I'd love to do it. All right, final ending. Have a wonderful day. Take care, my friends. Thank you for listening, subscribing, reviewing, all that jazz. Love you guys. Be safe. Be good to one another. And God bless. Peace.